Hey everyone, it's Hunter and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, it is so nice to meet you. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you guys the books that I read in January and February of this year, since it is now March. I had planned on doing a whole video, and I did one kind of like this, but I was planning on doing a video of every book that I read in 2020. But I read so many books that it would have taken me forever to tell you about all of the books that I read in 2020. So I have already read like 25% of the books that I want to read for this year in the first 2 months of the year. So I thought that now would be a good time to show you guys the books that I read for the first 2 months, so that way I don't have to give you like a million books at one time. So with that being said, before we get started, be sure to subscribe to my channel down below if you haven't already. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up if you like book content, because I have really been loving filming book content recently, so I hope you guys like it. And by giving this video a thumbs up, that will let me know that you want to see more videos like this, because at the moment I'm planning to do this every 2 months. So for January, February, March and April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November and December together. So that way it's not an overwhelming amount of books. So yeah, that's what's happening. Yeah, that's what's happening. So let's just go ahead and get started. So if you are not familiar with Goodreads, this is how I keep track of all the books that I read. I've had people ask me this before, so I wanted to let you know. I keep track of the books that I read on Goodreads. It's just the easiest way to put a book in, the start date, the end date, and most of the time it like automatically syncs, because I do read most of my books on my Kindle. If you want an in-depth review of my Kindle, I did one last year, but I have thought about doing an updated one. So let me know if that's something that you guys would like to see, because I definitely have different feelings about it since then. I mean, they're all positive, but I did want to give a more in-depth review than I did last time. So if you'd be interested in seeing that, let me know. So now let me just actually share the books with you. So my goal for this year is to read 100 books, and so far I have read 23. So 23% of the way done, and it says right now I am 7 books ahead of schedule, which is good. I like being ahead of schedule, so that way I can catch up if I need to. First book is called Dear Haiti, Love Elaine by Micah Moulite and Maritza Moulite. I am not sure how to pronounce that, because so if I'm not saying that right, please forgive me. So this book is about Elaine. She is Haitian, her family is from Haiti, and her mom is a political like reporter, I guess. And not only does something go wrong with her, but she also makes this a school presentation and it ends up going really badly. So her parents basically ship her to Haiti with her mom, and she learns about Haiti for the first time, and there's a bunch of stuff that has to do with like voodoo and stuff, which is really big in Haiti, and I think it's like the official religion of the country, honestly. So she learns about that and all these different things that happened to her mom growing up that she didn't know about, and about her mom's twin sister, and just overall, I don't know, it was really good. I really liked it. It was definitely a different perspective than I'm used to reading. I'd say this is probably more of a young adult novel than like a regular adult novel, but it was really good. I love young adult novels. I think they're really good. How it was written, it was very modern in the way that it was written. It was like emails and also like her mom's journal. I don't know, it just like it flowed really well, and I really appreciated that. Next is Find Me by Andre Aciman, which is actually the second book to Call Me By Your Name. And if you're not familiar with Call Me By Your Name, I think Timothy Chalamet, is that his name? Him, that guy. He's one of the characters in the movie for Call Me By Your Name, but this, even though it's a sequel to it, it can be read as a standalone. Like, I didn't find myself horribly confused while I was reading it, so I love that it could be read as a standalone. Mason got me this book for Christmas because the cover, he said, looks like something that I would have picked up myself, which he's right. It was very different than what I normally read. It was like 4 different stories within a book, and the first story was like really long, and there's not chapters, so that was something that had to, I don't know, I really had to get used to, because I'm used to reading like I'm not used to reading physical books. So I was like, when's this chapter over? When's this chapter over, so that I can like pick a place to go to bed? And there weren't any chapters, so I thought that was interesting, but it was a really good book. Next is Every Last Secret by A.R. Torre, and I'm not even gonna lie to you, I don't even remember what this book was about. I know whenever I was reading it, I thought, wow, this is really good. I listened to it on audiobook, and because it was a Kindle unlimited download that also had an Audible companion with it, so I listened to it that way. So let me read the description really quickly. I do know that whenever I made an Instagram story about this, I gave it a 3 out of 5 because it was good when I read it, but it's not memorable enough for me to even remember what it was about. Okay, basically this woman is obsessed with her neighbor and her husband. IDK. It wasn't that memorable to me. Next is one that was actually so good. It was like the quickest read ever. It's My Sister the Serial Killer by Oyekan Braithwaite. I'm not sure if I pronounced that right. I know it takes place in Kenya, so I'm not sure if the, let's see, she worked for a Nigerian publishing house, so I think she may be African, but basically it was really funny. So basically the book starts with this main character helping her sister clean up after she murdered someone, and it goes through the story of the previous boyfriends that she's killed, and then she meets someone else and her sister's super worried about it, that she's gonna try to kill him, and it's really funny, but it's also like the quickest read ever. Like, it literally read so quickly. I read it in like a day. Next is Verity by Colleen Hoover, and I love Colleen Hoover, and I did not even know who she was until I picked I picked a book of hers off of Kindle Unlimited maybe last year, and I have read so many of her books since then. Verity is very, very, very different from her other books. Her other books are very like young adult lovey kind of things, and this was very much not. Like, this was very dark, and I'm not gonna lie, the ending really has me messed up. Like, I'm still thinking about it, because you go through this story with this mindset about this person, and then at the very end, like, it just flips a switch and you have no idea like what's the truth or not. Basically, this woman has an accident. She is an author, her name is Verity, and her publishing company hires this woman to be a ghostwriter for her, and she is like trying to get to know Verity, and she finds a manuscript that she wrote of an autobiography, and so it goes back and forth between the author's point of view and then Verity's autobiography. I don't know, it's really good, but it's very, very dark, but it's very good. Very, very good. Next is The Good Daughter by Karen Slaughter. Honestly, I don't know if Slaughter is a pen name or not, but if it's not, then it's like the most perfect name ever for her to be a thriller novel writer. I really liked this book. It has 4.09 stars on Goodreads and 125,000 ratings. So the fact that it has so many ratings, and it has that good of a rating means it's really good. I thought it was really, really good. Basically, there are these two girls who they have like this really traumatic experience at childhood, and then they have to like, it's a traumatic experience, they have a childhood, and then they come back to their hometown when they're adults, and there's like something about, there's like another tragedy that happens in the town, and then it also like relates back to their childhood trauma. It's really good, really good, really, really good. So the next book is Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens, and this book is super hyped up. It is part of the Reese Witherspoon book club, I think, and I think it might have been a book of the month book, but I know that it was highly, highly raved about, and honestly, my mom told me that she thought it was slow in the beginning when she read it, and it like took a while for it to pick up for her. But honestly, like, I really enjoyed the whole book. It was very different than what I would expect my mom to read, so I was surprised that she read it. And whenever I knew that she read it, I almost was like, I don't want to read that, because I don't know, we just have different styles of books that we like to read. It has a 4.47 stars, and it has 1,167,282 ratings with 4.4 stars, which is absolutely insane. That means it's a really good book. 10 out of 10 would recommend, honestly. I was so like taken aback by the ending of it, like literally like, oh my gosh, I don't even know how to explain it. If you haven't read it, you need to. It's really good. Just that's all I have to say. Next is Salt to the Sea by Ruta Sepetys. Not sure. But it's about these people and their journey to this ship during World War II. And what is the ship called? Hold on. It was a German cruise liner. What is it called? Oh, it's the Wilhelm Gustloff. I'm assuming that's how it's, I don't know how it's pronounced, it's German. But it's these people who are refugees that are going onto this ship, and they are trying to get to somewhere else to escape Hitler and his army, and then the Russians also, who are like trying to invade all these Eastern European countries. And it basically is the story of their journey to that boat, but then also what happens on the boat. It is well known in history, not well known in history, it is a lesser known sinking ship. So it's not like the Titanic, but so many people died in it, but it's like, it shows the people, I don't know, it's something that I didn't know about. I'm not super big into historical fiction, but 10 out of 10, really good. I really, really liked it. Next is The Hunting Party by Lucy Foley, and I like the way that Lucy Foley writes her books. I've noticed, I've read a couple of her books and they are all like formatted similarly, but it's basically this group of people who are friends from college. They go to a cabin in Scotland in like the middle of nowhere and someone dies, and you know someone dies in the very beginning because it goes back and forth to like present day, and then like 3 days later, 2 days later, 1 day later, the day of, the morning of. It gives a whole backstory on the moments leading up to someone being dead or someone dying, and then them finding out that someone died and like trying to figure out who did it. And so you know who did it in the book at the end, but it just comes together really nicely because you're seeing raw reactions and you have no idea what's going on with like who the person is, but you can kind of guess. But it is not the person you expect it to be. I don't know, I thought it was really good. Next is In a Holidays by Christina Lauren, and I really wanted to read this like before January because I wanted to read this for the holidays because it's called In a Holidays, but basically it was not available until after Christmas, which is not surprising at all, but I borrowed it from the library. Basically, it is this girl who keeps living the same day over and over again, but around the holidays with family friends, childhood friends, and this guy that she's been in love with like her whole life. It is super cute. A 5 out of 5 in my book. Next is Little Fires Everywhere. If you have not seen the TV show, I would recommend reading the book first. There is a TV show on Hulu right now starring Reese Witherspoon and Kerry Washington, and I'm like in the 4th episode right now, but I wanted to separate myself a little bit from the book so that I could like actually enjoy the show instead of comparing them. But basically it's like this perfect town, and this mom and her daughter, and then it's like the perfect friend and a daughter who is the mom's lady, and there's a whole around it, and a child. I don't know how to explain it. I don't know how to explain it, but it's really good. Next is Behind Her Eyes by Sarah Pinborough, and I talked about this in my last favorites video. It's now a show on Netflix, so again, if you haven't watched the show yet, you should definitely read the book first. Basically, I'm gonna have to read the description. Louise is a single mom, a secretary stuck in a modern day rut. On a rare night out, she meets a man in a bar and sparks fly. Though he leaves after they kiss, she's thrilled she finally connected with someone. When Louise arrives at work on Monday, she meets her new boss, David, the man from the bar, the very married man from the bar, who says the kiss was a terrible mistake, who still can't keep his eyes off Louise. And then Louise bumps into Adele, who's new to town and in need of a friend, but also just happens to be married to David. So honestly, the end of it had me totally shook. I was a completely unexpected twist, turn of events at the very, very end. I was like, what? Did that just happen? So there's that. The next book that I read is the first Bridgerton book called The Duke and I. And basically, if you haven't seen the show, it is literally the first season of Bridgerton. So Daphne and the Duke of Hastings, and it's the first season of Bridgerton on Netflix. So I don't feel like I need to explain that further. This next one, I cannot remember what it was about. It's called What Lies Between Us by John Mars. Oh, okay, so this girl has her mom chained into the basement for doing something bad. And it goes back and forth from the daughter to the mom's perspective. Not the basement, it's not the basement, it's the attic. Chained in the attic. In like a soundproof room. She's basically kidnapped her mom and is holding her hostage there forever. That's all I got for now. Then we have The Lying Game by Ruth Ware, and let me just read this description. On a cool June morning, a woman is walking her dog on an idyllic coastal village of Salton along a tidal estuary known as the Reach. Before she can stop him, the dog charges into water to retrieve what first appears to be a wayward stick, but to her horror turns out to be something much more sinister. The next morning, 3 women in and around London, Fatima, Thea, and Isabel, receive a text that they always hoped they would never come from the 4th in their formerly inseparable clique, Kate, that says, "Only I need you." The 4 girls were the best friends at Salton, a second-rate boarding school set near the cliffs on the English Channel. Each different in their own way, the 4 of them become inseparable and were notorious for playing the lying game, telling lies at every turn to both fellow boarders and faculty, the varying states of serious and flippant nature that were disturbing enough to ensure that everyone steered clear of them. The myriad and complicated rules of the game are strict. No lying to each other, ever. Bail on the lie when it becomes clear it's about to be found out, but their little game had consequences, and the girls were all expelled in their final year of school under mysterious circumstances surrounding the death of the school's eccentric art teacher, Ambrose. Oh my gosh, this next one is literally the cutest book in the world. This Time Next Year by Sophie Cousins. Literally, if you do not read any other book this year, read this one. It's so cute. Basically, it is this girl and this guy. They are born in the same hospital on the same day, minutes apart from each other. Their moms were friends when they first, like when they were in the hospital together. They helped each other through labor because their husbands were not there. And basically it goes from New Year's Eve of one year to New Year's Eve of the next year, and it takes like a whole year, but they keep running into each other. And there's like a tagline on the front that says another chance to find each other. So basically they like bump into each other all year long and become friends. Really good. It's like the cutest book ever. Next is What Alice Forgot. Basically, Alice is in an accident. She hits her head. She forgets everything from the last 10 years. So she has kids. She has just divorced. She has a boyfriend, all this stuff, and she forgets all of it. She doesn't know that she has a kid. She thinks she's still pregnant with her first kid, who is 10 years old in the book. And it goes through them trying to explain, like her family and her friends trying to explain to her everything that happened in the last 10 years, because what if she never gets her memory back? What if it never comes back? She needs to know all these things about her. That's what happens. Honestly, I give it a 3 out of 10. It has a 4.08 rating, so a 4-star rating. And honestly, I kept waiting for something to happen. I just felt like it could have been more interesting. I don't know, I kept waiting on something to happen and nothing really did. And the epilogue kind of redeemed it, but for the most part, I don't know, I was kind of bored the whole time. Next is The Family Upstairs, and I have to read this because I can't describe it to you. Soon after her 25th birthday, Libby Jones returns home from work to find the letter she's been waiting for her entire life. She rips it open with one driving thought: I am finally going to know who I am. But soon she learns not only the identity of her birth parents, but also that she's the sole inheritor of their abandoned mansion on the banks of the Thames in London's fashionable Chelsea neighborhood worth millions. Everything in Libby's life is about to change. But when she can't possibly know is that others have been waiting for this day as well, and she is on a collision course to meet them. 25 years ago, police were called to 16 Cheyenne Walk with reports of a crying baby. When they arrived, they found a healthy 10-month-old baby in her crib in the bedroom. Downstairs in the kitchen, 3 dead bodies, all dressed in black, next to a hastily scrawled note, and the other 4 children reported to live at the Cheyenne Walk are gone. They can't look away. The Can't Look Away story of the 3 entangled families living in a house with the darkest of secrets. Very, very good. Next is The Guest List by Lucy Foley, and it's basically this wedding happens on like this really super remote island. Someone ends up dead. It's kind of like that other story that I was telling you about from her, where it goes back and forth between the before, the during, and the after. Really good, lots of secrets. Very good. Next is The Whisper Network, and it's by Chandler Baker. It is basically, these women are friends. They are lawyers for a prominent, wealthy, expensive exercise brand or something, like a sporting brand. Let's just call it the fiction equivalent of Nike. They are lawyers for this equivalent of Nike, and then something happens to their boss. He dies, and it goes through the whole story of that. Next is Conviction, and by Denise Mina is the name. Yeah, Conviction by Denise Mina. There's this girl who, she's listening to a podcast, a true crime podcast, and the person the podcast is about, she knows, or like she once knew. So she basically just tries to figure out like what, because it was an unsolved mystery. So she's basically just trying to figure out what happened, and it's really good. Next is Such a Fun Age by Kylie Reed, and this one was so good. I thought about putting it down at first, but basically it is this babysitter. She is a black girl who is babysitting for a white family. She gets a call from the mom and is like, hey, I need you to come take my daughter to the grocery store, get her out of the house. Something happened at her house. We need to call the police. We don't want her to be freaked out. So this black babysitter takes this white little girl to like the whitest upper class grocery store that's like near the house, because she doesn't want to drive. So she walks to the grocery store, and the security guard in the grocery store accuses her of kidnapping the kid. And so it goes through this whole story of the racial dynamic, and then she also gets a boyfriend who is related to something in the mom's past. Very interesting, because you really see the progression of both of the characters. The mom is just as scheming and lying as always, and the babysitter finds out what she really wants to do with her life, even though she loves the child that she babysits. It's like hard for her to give up the kid to do what she wants to do. So that's a good time. And then the last book that I read in those 2 months is Two Can Keep a Secret by Karen McManus. And this one is, I really liked this one. This is like a young adult but thriller novel at the same time. So it's like the books I read in high school, but also thriller novels that I read now, like put together in one book. And we love that perfect combination of a book. Basically, let me just read the description because I don't know how to describe it. Echo Ridge is a small town America. Ellery's never been there, but she's heard all about it. Her aunt went missing there at age 17, and only 5 years ago, a homecoming queen put in the town on the map when she was killed. Now Ellery has to move there to live with her grandmother she barely knows. The town is picture perfect, but it's hiding secrets. And before school even begins for Ellery, someone has declared open season on homecoming, promising to make it as dangerous as it was 5 years ago. Then, almost as if to prove it, another girl goes missing. Ellery knows all about secrets. Her mother has them, her grandmother does too. And the longer she's in Echo Ridge, the clearer it becomes that everyone here is hiding something. The thing is, secrets are dangerous, and most people aren't good at keeping them, which is why Echo Ridge is safest to keep your secrets safe. Honestly, I was totally shook by the ending. I shouldn't have been, because sometimes books like this can be predictable, but I always find myself shook at the most predictable of endings because I don't feel like predictable is actually ever going to happen. So anyway, those are all the books that I read for the first 2 months of the year. I've been talking for like 700 years, so if you watched all the way to the end of this movie, it's long enough to be a movie. If you watched all the way to the end of this video, I am so thankful for you. I appreciate you. Now I am gonna go and get some work done. I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.